Yes, shalom everyone. This isツァルファティ. I'm from home, from Galilee, and thankfully I was able to sleep a few hours. I wanted to give you an update on the situation in Ukraine, but not only there, it's something that is much bigger than that. I'll wait a couple minutes and then we will get into this special breaking news slash update on the situation with the Ukraine and Russia. Yesterday, literally minutes after I said live that a war is about to begin, literally minutes, it started right after. So right now, I guess I will be a little bit more updated because it's already going on. But let me see that you're all connected and we'll start. Okay, so folks, shalom everyone again. This is Tsarfati, live from Galilee, from Israel. Thankfully, I made it. I even managed to squeeze 5 hours of sleep in between. But I want to give you an update on what is happening there. So yesterday, when I gave you the update, just when I arrived here, it was about 4 a.m. Israel time, I knew that the war is about to start because all the indications were there. I said live that the cyber attack was underway, and that is the first phase. And then comes, of course, bombing from the air, bombing from the ground, and then, of course, tanks and infantry. So minutes after I was done giving the update yesterday, the actual Russian assault has begun. And let me summarize everything in the next few minutes, okay? So first of all, before we talk about what is happening, let me give you an understanding of the behind the scenes. Okay, let's make it very clear. Vladimir Putin planned this thing long ago. It's not something that happened overnight. This is from a document that I know of that was circulating only inside Russian circles. This invasion has been already detailed over a year and a half ago. And the question is, why has it not been done then? A year and a half ago, someone else was in the White House, as you know. Then comes a new president, and throughout his first year, it appears that things can be done the way Putin wants them to be done. And of course, he made that move. So let's make it very clear. There is nothing that the Russian president is doing right now that he did not plan long ago in details. Second, on Monday, Vladimir Putin gave a very long televised speech where he detailed the reasons why Russia must do something. Remember, that was Monday. Believe it or not, when the cameras were turned off from that speech, he told them then to turn them on again to record that which he will televise 2 days later. And wearing the same suit and the same tie with the same face and the same data on the video. The video, you can detect which day the video was done. The data shows that the video that was televised last night to announce the actual beginning of the war was actually shot and filmed on Monday. So make no mistake, when he gave the televised speech on Monday, he already recorded the speech of last night. Once again, to tell you that this thing was, of course, planned. Now, let me go into what is Putin trying to do and how exactly he is doing that. First of all, Putin is not there just to help the two republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. No, As you could already see on Telegram, I posted several times today the maps, the updated maps of all the different attacks. It is all across the Ukraine. Every region of Ukraine, over 20 different regions all across the country are being attacked as we speak right now. 11 different airports were destroyed. 75 aircrafts are used. Some of the Russian aircrafts and helicopters were downed by, the Ukrainians using Stinger missiles and others. But for the most part, you have to understand, this is not a balanced war. The Russians, almost in every parameter, are 3 times bigger than the forces on the ground of the Ukraine. So there's no point, there's no chance for the Ukrainians to fight and win this war. I mean, unless there is some sort of a ceasefire agreement. If the Russians continue, it is a matter of 96 hours before Kiev is falling and the country is completely under Russian control. So this is what we know that is going to happen. Now let me now explain what are the objects of Vladimir Putin. First of all, Vladimir Putin has 3 problems with the Ukraine. One problem is the fact that the Ukrainians are denying, I'm quoting him, their Russian heritage and are aligning themselves more with the West. He hates that. He hates, it's almost like backstabbing for him, and therefore what he wants to do, he wants to crush every Ukrainian sign of nationalism. Now, he's calling it, believe it or not, I'm quoting Putin, we are going into a he call it, it's a limited military operation. And look what he says, to demilitarize Ukraine from, and now comes the interesting thing, he's using the word Nazis, from the Nazi forces. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what is he talking about? I mean, Nazis, we're not in World War II. No, we may be in the beginning of World War III. For him, the Ukrainian nationalists are Nazis. That's how what is Nazis? National, nationalist. He believes that they are as bad as the Nazis. He believes that he has to clean the Ukraine from the nationalists. And therefore, he has to go all the way into Kiev. He has to put a puppet president, Alexander or probably Lukashenko. He's probably going to arrest a lot of nationalist parliament members. He wants to also reach some sort of date for elections and make sure that the elections will reflect his will. He wants to make sure that the Ukraine will not have any demands over Crimea, Donetsk, or Lugansk. He wants the Ukraine to acknowledge the annexation of these areas to Russia or to be independent. And also, and you have to be very, now comes the, not spiritual, but the religious aspect of it. Another thing that Putin hates is the fact that the Ukrainian church, the Orthodox Church, separated itself from the Russian Orthodox Church. For him, there's only one Orthodox Church, it's the Russians. Okay? So, listen what I just said. This is way beyond, Lugansk, Donetsk, and fights and separatists, or all of that. No. He says, if I go all the way, I want to make sure that this front is completely quiet for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So first of all, Ukraine will not be part of NATO. Second, Ukraine will acknowledge the annexation of Crimea to Russia and Donetsk and Lugansk as independent. Third, all Nazis in Ukraine, again, he calls the nationalists in the Ukraine Nazis, they have to be eliminated. Fourth, parliament members will be imprisoned, a puppet president will be imposed, and then until then, they'll work on some elections. Of course, we all know the results of these elections. And the last thing, of course, folks, he is talking about eliminating the role of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and leaving the title Orthodox Church only as the Russian one. I'm trying to tell you that this is a deeper conflict and a deeper crisis than just a territorial one. And it has to be understood in the West, because the West doesn't get it. Unfortunately, they didn't take him seriously. They thought that it's all diplomacy, negotiations, when he actually said 80% of my army is surrounding it, this country. I'm here for business. By the way, I'm not on Putin's side, not at all. I think, but I think God is going to take care of him. I think that God is going to crush Rosh, the prince of Rosh and Meshech and Tuval, according to Ezekiel. I have no doubt that this conflict is going to go down south towards Syria and eventually towards Israel. And this is exactly where Bible prophecy plays a role. And this is where Bible prophecy is describing the rising Russian bear, Rosh. But I want you to understand, folks, until then, what we are watching right now can easily escalate to World War III, because Russia can affect the prices of energy of the whole world. Russia is already affecting some of the high-tech industry, because a lot of the lithium and a lot of the, I posted on Telegram, there's certain semiconductors that are, they use material from Ukraine, and some that are using material from Russia. And now these two places are, one is paralyzed and the other one is being sanctioned. So it's going to affect the economy of the whole world. I'm not even talking about Russian gas that might even stop flowing into Europe to freeze it unless Europe lift up the sanctions. And all of that because Russia's president saw an opportunity, simply because there is a weak president in the White House. I know a lot of Americans don't like me saying that, but this is the reality. This is the truth. The Russian intentions when it comes to Ukraine are not new. But again, he made his move in 2014 when Obama was in power, and he's making his move now in 2022 when Biden is in power. One have to ask himself, why is it that during the 45th president nothing was done? And it's because there was some sort of sheriff in town, and everybody were too careful not to do whatever they want. Make no mistake, in the last 24 hours, China has, the rhetorics in China is this. They are basically saying that the conflict that they have over there is also valid to them. So we're talking about a situation where the Chinese also wants to enlarge their territories and bring back lost territory that once used to be them. And therefore, I would advise you all not to just keep your eyes on the Ukraine, because it's getting much larger than this. Okay, we also must remember that Israel is afraid of taking sides now. The Israeli Prime Minister gave a speech today in which he sympathized with the Ukrainian people, and he also urged all the Jewish people to move to Israel, blah, blah, blah. But he did not condemn Russia even once. He didn't even mention Russia even once. Israel is afraid to make the Russians angry. By the way, we already made them angry in the last few days. And this is why the Israeli assaults in Syria are mostly surface-to-surface missiles. And we're afraid to go with the F-16s all the way deep into Syria, because we don't want the Russians to shoot our planes down. The Russians are not happy with the Israeli activity in Syrian skies. And so this is the beginning of a war that is going to escalate to a much bigger conflict and beyond regional. Now it's, local and regional. It will become something bigger than that. I'm I'm a little hesitant to use the word World War III, but we may need to start using that phrase in the near future if more countries will be added to this equation. Make sure to know that the Lithuanian parliament just declared a state of emergency. That means that more countries in the region are now feeling that the Russian intentions might include them as well. Putin just gave a speech a few minutes ago saying, look, there's no point in hurting the Russian economy. What we did because we had no choice left in our hands. Of course, I'm saying what he says. This is not what I think. But what I think or what you think, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what he thinks, and because what he thinks leads to what he is actually doing on the ground. The West is threatening with more sanctions. That's it. Now, when was the last time sanctions stopped a war immediately? Never. Never in history. What stops the advancing of a big country is another big army on the other side. That's it. Not sanctions. In America, France, Germany, UK, all of them already pledged not to send troops to the Ukraine. So the Ukrainians they already know they're done. They're taking refuge in metro stations. I mean, they understand. Their president played down this whole conflict, so the economy will not get hurt. And now everybody's taken by surprise. The Ukrainians are starting to flee, but in some places it's impossible. Roads are closed. They don't even have a way to put gasoline because gas stations are jam-packed. There's long lines for gas stations. Banks, some of them are closed. The food is now gone from all the stores. This is going to evolve into a huge humanitarian crisis. And maybe because of the humanitarian side of it, the Russians will be actually forgiven by the West. And so the fighting will die out, and the Ukrainians will be able to sustain themselves. Again, I'm not a prophet. This is, for me, when I see those things, I know that biblically, the Bible doesn't talk about countries and their conflicts between each other. The Bible talks about countries and their conflict with Israel. And so when I look at Ezekiel war, I see that the Russian attack will come from the north. For that, he has to be emboldened. For that, he has to want what Israel has. Maybe the Israeli gas will now be the savior of Europe because of what Russia is planning for Europe. And maybe that will be the hook in the jaw. I'm not sure. All I know is there will be a hook in the jaw that will bring Russia down, and then the conflict will be on the mountains of Israel. And God, not even the armies of Israel, will be able to withstand the Russian coalition attacking. It's going to be the God of Israel, and it's going to be in a supernatural way, because in a natural way, the Israeli military is not strong enough to withstand the Russians. We have a great military, but we know we can never withstand that one. So, folks, what I'm trying to say is that Ukraine right now is the first brick, the first domino part that eventually will lead all the way down towards Israel. I want you to keep your eyes on what is going on also in Syria. The Iranians are watching what's going on. They understand that the attention of the whole world is at Ukraine. Why do you think Israel attacked last night again? Israel attacked because we see that the Iranians are taking advantage of the situation, and huge planes, cargo planes, are, loading missiles and defense systems in Tehran, and they unloading them in Damascus. And precision missiles are arriving. Everything. Israel had to destroy part of it last night in the outskirts of Damascus, in territory that is under the control of Hezbollah. But we most likely used surface-to-surface missiles that were flying directly from Israeli territory. Again, Iran is taking advantage of the situation China is showing its ugly face towards Taiwan, saying that Taiwan is Chinese territory. Chinese jets violated the Taiwanese airspace today several times. China is watching what the world is doing, and as far as China is concerned, sanctions is not something China is afraid of. The whole world's economy is depending on the market of China that is supplying most of the products. So sanctions are not really scaring China. What everybody is watching is military intervention. And when the world is watching how Ukraine was left all alone, and there is no military assistance to fight against the Russians to push them back, China understands nobody's going to help Taiwan. China understands it's just, it's going to be all probably the same thing. So I need you to understand this is not a conflict that is just local. It's getting regional, and it will escalate also soon into something that is even on a global scale. Now, is this the beginning of the tribulation? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, this is exactly why I wrote the book Revealing Revelation, because so many people, every time something bad happens around the world, jumps into this wrong conclusion that it's part of the tribulation, which is not. If you read the whole description, this is why I made it so easy when I wrote it. It's not for Bible scholars. It's for every one of us to understand what God is planning when he will pour judgment upon this world. So don't get panicky with tribulation figures and of speech that to be used and just scare people. Understand that God is in full control. When the prophets described the situation, they understood that there's going to be war. The description in Ezekiel is not a peaceful description, not at all. In order for Russia to make its move towards Israel, it has to be emboldened. It has to be, it has to be different than what it was so far. And what we are watching right now is the Russian bear rising again and wanting what he thinks belongs to him. And if Israel will pose any threat, whether it's military, but mostly financial threat to Russia, Russia is not going to think twice. Putin is not someone who is afraid to use his weapon, as you could see already. When he wants something, he's going to get it. And so I suggest that we all keep our eyes open as for what is going on in Syria, what is going on within Iran with the enrichment of uranium that is now skyrocketing, and what is going on in China with Taiwan, but also what is going on with the Israeli response to all of this. Weak, fearful, and very almost apologetic to this whole thing. And what do we see on the other side across the Atlantic in the Oval Office? I think you don't want me to describe. You don't need me to describe. This is the best thing that ever happened to Putin right now. He understands that all these talks about diplomacy and diplomacy. Look, when somebody brings nearly 80% of his army, he is not there for diplomacy. It reminds me, years ago, I gave a lecture to the New York Police Department on hostage situations. It was a hostage negotiation theme conference. So I came to talk about suicide bombers and the whole Islamic aspect of it. And I said to them, when a suicide bomber is arriving, and he's a Muslim, radical Muslim one, he's not there to be convinced to lay down his explosive belts. He's not there to be convinced to talk about his family, his future, his friends. He's there determined more than ever before to pull that trigger and to blow himself up and to cause as many casualties as possible so he can secure his place in heaven. That's how they think. And so when they ask me, so from a hostage negotiator's point of view, what do we do with someone like that? And I said, kill him before he kills you. And I don't think they wanted to hear from me anymore. I wasn't invited again the next year. But I can tell you, when Russia puts 80% of its military around Ukraine, it's not there to talk. It's not there to negotiate. Obviously, from the get-go, the three conditions that Biden put on the table, that Putin put on the table, were meant to fail, because that means the end of NATO and the end of America and Europe, basically. And of course, NATO will not agree, and America will not agree. So Putin just knew what he is going to do is definitely attack. That's it. He brought his army and prepared the army for an attack because he knew that what he really wants to happen is something that neither America nor NATO can provide. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember that God is in full control. I cannot say that I can find a Ukrainian-Russian conflict in the Bible, but I can say that most of the world wars are not even in the Bible. But they led to events and circumstances that affected Israel, and that is in the Bible. So Russia right now attacks from three directions: from the north, from Belarus; from the east, from the Donbass area; and from the south, from Crimea. And it was predicted. I posted on Telegram, by the way, if you're not on Telegram, go and subscribe. Folks, I update there all the time, videos and photographs and maps and news. I mean, it's crazy. You'll find Amir Tsarfati. It has already 223,000 subscribers, easy to find. And I posted there again the map of the Donbass area with Donetsk and Lugansk, and they are advancing right now. Not all their territories they want is under their control yet, but it will be within probably 76 hours. So Kiev will fall. The Ukrainian president, they want to replace. They want to crush all nationalism. They call it Nazism. And they want to make sure that Ukraine will not just accept, but Ukraine will support the annexation of Crimea. Ukraine will support the independence of Lugansk and Donetsk. And they also want, ladies and gentlemen, they want that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church will cease to exist. They want only Russian Orthodox Church. See, this is a deeper crisis way beyond territory. It's religious, it's historic, is about the roots of these nations. And Vladimir Putin basically said 3 days ago, Ukraine is Russian territory that our Russian leaders since 1917 generously gave to the Ukrainians, but it's time to take it back if the Ukrainians don't really appreciate it. That's how, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. That's how he views it, and this is how he thinks, and that is why he acts like this. You have to understand, if you want to win a war, you need to think the way your enemy thinks. You don't need to think, oh, it's good or bad, or is it justified, not justified? Is it true or false, fake news, good news, real news? No. Think the way he thinks. And then you will know how to act accordingly. Okay, guys, this is a long update. Please share it with people so they understand what's going on. I will keep updating you on Telegram. And I really hope that you're going to pre-order my book, Revealing Revelation, because it will quiet you from thinking that this is, the end. I want you to get an understanding of the book of Revelation so you're not being easily deceived. Revealing Revelation. Okay, thank you. God bless you, and shalom.